What we want to talk about today, I know some of you have heard a little bit about it, and you've heard about project-based learning and some things some places we visited. We have been doing a tremendous amount of research, and we are very proud of the Marshall County School District. We put together a PowerPoint, if we get it to go. Several things that we have going on in our district. We're in the top 8 in the state for 2 years straight, like the shirt says. We are a distinguished district, 4 distinguished schools of distinction, 2 proficient schools, 2 schools to watch, and a blue ribbon school. So we are very, very proud of what you guys have accomplished already. Now what we have found out is over the years, we have tried several initiatives, and they've all been somewhat successful. And if they didn't reach the success level that we wanted them to, we learned from them, I promise you. You could probably add a few more to the list. Thoughtful education, several that we have tried throughout the years, and you guys have been great. You've been great at them. We appreciate you for always trying anything that comes your way. We're not afraid of change in this district. But as educators, we have to be lifelong learners. We learn as we go. So our new direction takes us away from the old public school Industrial Revolution mold of schools. Our schools have not changed a great deal in over 100 years. And why is that? Why were our schools built the way they were built 100 years ago? Because for factory jobs. Those factory jobs are no longer there. Not the way that they used to be. Our schools were set up with bells, with chunks of time. We rolled through the school day. We'd go from one class to the next, a lot like the whistle blew at the old plants, whether they be in Michigan or Calvert City or whatever. College was basically for the elite. Only certain people used to get to go to college. That's not the case anymore. All students basically can go to college. Now what we do find is that several of those students, when they get out of college, they don't have jobs. We have several students that graduate college with no place to go. Some of you may have kids that fall into that category. Or they are underemployed or unemployed. They can't find work. Today's world, technology has taken over a lot of the jobs that people used to do. If you look in Detroit at the car manufacturing, those cars are not built by people anymore, they're built by machines. So what we have to do is, what can we do to prepare our students for a better chance globally to compete? And Tony Wagner, let's get this slide. Tony Wagner says it's no longer about what you know, it's about what you can do with what you know. So the handout that you have 7 survival skills. And let's go through those just for a second. If students want to be successful today, they have to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, collaboration and leadership, adaptability and agility, initiative, entrepreneurialism, effective written and oral communicators, be able to access and analyze information, and have curiosity and imagination. It's no longer about whether or not they know the order of the battles of the Civil War. It's no longer about if they know the capitals of the states of the United States, because of these things right here. Every student has more information in their phones or on the internet than we've ever had before. So what we have to do is, how can we teach our students these 7 survival skills? And we've been doing a lot of research over the last year. We went and visited some schools from other states, from around the nation. And what we want to do is, I'm going to give you some permission today. What changes do we have to make Marshall County schools be the best? And I'm not just talking about we're in the top 8 in the state. Our test scores are up there. What's next for our students? We've got to shift our focus from the K-Prep test. And I'm giving you permission to do that. The K-Prep test is a multiple choice test for the most part. Has a few short answers on it. It's fairly low level. And we strive for our students to do their best on K-Prep. We've celebrated it for years. We had a big celebration. I'm very proud of that. But we're past that. We're beyond that. Marshall County School District, we're going to the next level. So, will we see a dip in our K-Prep scores? Yes, we will, probably for a little bit. And that's okay. I've already started telling the community that. I've already told them we're going in a different direction. We're going to start teaching our kids how to be survivalists in the world. Whatever the problem comes along, I want them to be able to solve it. I want them to be successful at whatever it takes in life. So, I'm giving you permission. And I want you to think, don't anybody answer this question, but let's just think about the last 4 weeks of school. What have we done a lot of those last 4 weeks of school? We probably spent 2 or 3 weeks doing what? Getting ready to take the K-Prep. We dropped everything else we were doing. We started reviewing for the K-Prep. We spent a week taking the test, and then we spent about a week or a week and a half, probably with field trips, videos, killing time to get to the end of the school year. Not everybody, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I did the same thing. But we spent a lot of time, a month of school, out of about 9 months, getting ready for one test. And that test is important, but it's not as important as the skills that we're getting ready to start teaching our students. Those that went and visited the school with us, we went to a school in Austin, Texas, very similar to ours in makeup. The difference that I saw in the kids there and our kids was unbelievable. Maybe not book sense smart, but they could communicate with anybody. Some of you have started doing a few projects in your class. I've came to visit your classes and watched them. What we saw, here's a problem that really impressed me being a former math teacher. What we saw, I saw a freshman level math class, Algebra 1. And the project was, they were studying vectors. And for those of you that's lines, basically. But they had 3 airplanes that were a certain distance from an airport, and they had to be the air traffic controller and get all 3 of those planes to land simultaneously at the airport without having a crash or a catastrophe. And they took their iPads or their whatever their units were, I don't know, they weren't all iPads, but they actually, on the screen, and they discussed the whole thing of what they were doing. They talked about how this plane, I mean, they demonstrated. They could show a video, and they showed all 3 planes landing, and I think of all the ones I was able to watch, I saw one plane miss the mark barely. And I thought, wow, could our freshman math students do that? I don't think they could. But their presentation skills were great. When they came to, on the day of the presentation, they were dressed very similar to me. They dressed up, they played the part. By the time they were seniors, we watched some senior presentations. It was unbelievable what they could do. So I think there is no reason that we can't do that for our students here in Marshall County. You guys have always been the leaders around the state whenever it comes to change. Anytime there's a change that's recommended around the state, guess who usually goes first? You guys. And I appreciate that. Everybody from around the state, when I go to meetings, they want to come visit our schools to see what we're doing. You guys know, you've had visitors in your classroom, you've had visitors from other districts. We've had visitors from China, Japan, and other countries to come to see what we're doing. So, and believe me, we're not doing this so that people will come to Marshall County and watch it. We're doing it because we believe this is what's best for our students. Now, are we going to jump into this head first? No, we're not. But I do believe time is of the essence. We do have to start making this move to prepare our students for the real world. So how are we going to do this? The best thing we can find out there right now that will teach the 7 survival skills is project-based learning. Now, does that mean that you're going to have to do 6 projects by such and such date? Absolutely not. Is there going to be some planning in the projects? Yes, there's going to be a lot of planning. Are we still going to cover the standards? You're going to cover the standards in the projects. But no one is ever going to tell you that you have to have this many projects by this certain date. That's not how this works. Okay? We're going to go slow at it. There's some of you that have heard about our trainings this summer. We have 2 trainings this summer where we're going to train a certain number of students, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But first, I'm going to let Ms. Griffey tell you a little bit about project-based learning and blended learning.
Okay, in your packet you have, behind your 7 survival skills, you have several things that you can read on your own time, but there is Buck Institute is who will be doing our project-based training, and I want to emphasize that I know that the project-based learning is been talked about, and that's kind of the buzz, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that's not the outcome that we're looking for. We're looking for our kids to have these 7 survival skills. You'll hear them referred to as 21st century skills. You'll hear them referred to as the 4 C's. And so there's different, but there are different terminology for them, but they all mean basically the exact same thing. So our project-based learning from Buck Institute, which we're training 100 in the month of June, they refer to it as the 4 C's, which is collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. Those are the 4 that they'll basically focus on, and they'll also focus on the 7 survival skills because that's originally where those came from. So there's some reading in here about project-based learning, and you can go to BIE.org and you can find out more information about project-based learning. But basically in the training, it will take teachers through the process of developing projects, and it will you will embed your standards in that, but it's a much different way of instructional strategy than we've used in the past. So this is just an instructional strategy for everybody to put in their toolbox. The reason why, again, like Mr. Lovett said, that we're going with project-based learning, research shows that right now it is the best instructional strategy for teachers to use and students to be a part of that learning opportunity in that environment, and it embeds all of those survival skills in that. So that's what we're trying to do, is give students the opportunity to experience learning and grow in those survival skills. Blended learning, you have an article in here about blended learning, and it's actually an article that talks about project-based learning, connecting it with blended learning. And blended learning, it is just where students are learning a portion of their standards online. They can do that during the school day. It could be a scheduled time where kids do blended learning. It could be a time in the classroom. It could be a time that they go to the computer lab. There is really no set way that we have to do this, so we're going to experiment with it to see what works best. But it is a system that we have to, right now we're not sure exactly what software we will use, but it has to be adaptive, where they'll take a benchmark test, and then they'll get instruction. It'll rank them and put them at the instructional level that they need to be at. So if you have a 3rd grader that takes a benchmark test and they are missing skills from 1st grade, it will automatically put them in those 1st grade standards. So the purpose of the blended learning with the project-based learning, it is to fill in some of those gaps. We want teachers to have time to plan these high-level, deeper learning opportunities for students, because that is what is important. So we're going to try to take care of some of these other things through a blended learning model. Hopefully, I don't know if Mr. Buchanan's in here or not, but he is up there, he's waving at me. Hopefully, I hope I can mention this, we are having discussions about going to a one-to-one initiative. I can't mention that, sorry. We're having discussions about going to one-to-one initiatives, so we're working on the networks right now, and hopefully within the next few years that will be possible. We were fortunate enough, and Ms. Solomon and I just came back from Oakland, California, and we viewed a project-based learning school, and they were not one-to-one, and they still had 96% of their students going to college, and 86% of them, finishing college, which is amazing. So it doesn't necessarily take one-to-one, but it will make it much easier for us, and I think for the students. Our last thing that I'm going to talk about is performance-based assessments. And I missed the CARA era of the performance-based assessments. I was just starting college, so some of you that were here around the early 90s, you remember that. But this is similar to what CARA intended, and we're studying a book right now, and it is by Tony Wagner called The Global Achievement Gap. And I know several of you principals are doing book studies. They'll begin that next year. And it talks about Kentucky and how CARA actually was on the right track. It tells that the funding and different obstacles came in our way, and we couldn't keep that going, but for a few years that was exactly what we needed to be doing with kids, because it taught these survival skills. So when you talk about project-based learning, the end result of the project-based learning is a performance-based assessment. And so we'll learn some about that when you get trained, but there's also another level that you can go to, and what we were fortunate to see in Oakland, California was a school called Envision Academy, in which their graduates had to do a performance-based assessment to graduate. they stood up and defended 3 artifacts of projects that they did in front of a panel, and they were asked questions over those, and they were scored by a rubric, and they either passed or they had to do revisions and come back. And if they passed, they stepped out of the room, they looked at the rubric, the panel did, discussed it. If they passed and they came back in, they were given their diploma right there. And tears were shed, you could imagine, but the excellent communication skills, I just could not get over. And having one graduate this year, you know, you think about, you know, could mine stand up there and do that as well? So all we're trying to do, and what we're trying to do, is give our students an edge. So we've seen students that have an edge around the country, and you know, I think you heard it straight from the boss here about the K-Prep, but I think we have done a great job of what our expectation, what we knew our expectation to be, and it was the K-Prep. That's how we're judged by our community, by our state, and you know, y'all stepped up and done a wonderful job. And so now we think that after research that there's more though that we can offer kids, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to let Mr. Lovett talk a little bit about our plan, and then we have a short video.
Does this mean you'll never have a lecture in your classroom again? No, it doesn't mean that. Does it mean that you're not going to do some of the things you were already doing? No, it doesn't. You guys are great at what you do, but this is going to give us and our students an opportunity to be ahead in the world. And like I said, I've already started talking with the community. I've spoke to the Rotary Club. I spoke to the Marshall County, whatever the new organization is called. What is it, Ms. Fisk? What is Ms. Fisk? Team Kentucky Lake. I spoke with them. And when I told them the direction we were going to be heading, you would not believe how many of them came to me and said, how can we help? And I said, give us some real life projects that we can work on. Because that's what Team Kentucky Lake did. The city of Benton has given Benton Middle School a project already that they've worked on and did an outstanding job. Our students did exactly this for Team Kentucky Lake. They gave them some ideas. They said, we want a mascot. What can we do to bring the people to Marshall County? From what young people, something that young people would like to have. They said, we want you to come up with a mascot, slogan. There were several things they asked them to do. And then the students were put into groups. They came up with their own ideas, and then they presented them in front of Team Kentucky Lake. And then Team Kentucky Lake chose the one that's actually going to be used, and they're going to be working together with these students, and they're going to put these things in action. To me, that's what this is all about. And those people on Team Kentucky Lake and in the Rotary Club, they were so excited whenever I told them what we were looking at doing. Now, are we going to do it all next year? No, we're not. We have a 4-year plan. This summer, we're going to train, I think we're actually now going to train 135 teachers. No, 105 teachers. 105 teachers this summer, starting next week. Some of you will be in that training. I think we have at least one spot left, maybe one spot left for next week, because Ms. Wagner had an accident and she's going to be having surgery. She was going to be attending, but now she can't. So if somebody is ready to go next week, we have one person that said maybe, so we're going to wait and see, but we may have one spot next week. Next year, we're going to train in year 2. We'll train 130 more teachers. 2017, 2018, we will train 75 to 100 teachers, however many are left. By 2018, 2019, all teachers will be trained, and we should be 1-to-1 for every student by that time. That's our plan for the next 4 years. So is this something that's going to take place all next year? No, it's not. But it is something that we're headed towards. I personally wanted to give you permission to quit worrying so much about the K-Prep test. I'm not saying we forget the standards, because the standards are still important, but they're going to be embedded into your learning. The world is changing, and we have to change with it so that our students will not be left behind. And then the last thing I want to do is we have a video, real short, about 3 or 4 minutes.
What should students learn in the 21st century? At first glance, this question divides into two. What should students know, and what should they be able to do? But there's more at issue than knowledge and skills. For the innovation economy, dispositions come into play. Readiness to collaborate, attention to multiple perspectives, initiative, persistence, and curiosity. While the content of any learning experience is important, the particular content is irrelevant. What really matters is how students react to it, shape it, or apply it. The purpose of learning in this century is not simply to recite inert knowledge, but rather to transform it. It is time to change the subject. This is no small matter. For more than a century, the whole point of schooling has been to restrict the curriculum, specify the required content, and limit the entry points to it, often by means of a watered-down, already obsolete text, mediated by a classroom manager whose task is to transmit the subject matter to 30 or more individuals of diverse backgrounds, experiences, interests, and resources. This is particularly true of the big 4 core subjects that the Carnegie Commission decided nearly a century ago are the subjects that matter: English, math, science, biology, chemistry, and physics. And the social studies count for much, and the fine and practical arts for much less. Why not study anthropology, zoology, or environmental science? Why not integrate art with calculus or chemistry with history? Why not pick up skills and understandings in all of these areas by uncovering and addressing real problems and sharing findings with authentic audiences? Why not invent a useful product that uses electricity, or devise solutions to community problems, all the while engaging in systematic observation, collaborative design, and public exhibitions of learning? It has long been axiomatic to separate students according to perceived academic ability, to separate academic from technical teaching and learning, and to isolate adolescents from the adult world they are about to enter. Instead, our aim in this century should be to integrate students by eliminating tracking, to integrate the subjects via problem-focused experiences, and to integrate school with the world beyond through fieldwork, service learning, and internships. What might students do in such schools in the absence of prescribed subjects? They might work together in diverse teams to build robots, roller coasters, gardens, and human-powered submarines. They might write and publish a guide to the fauna and history of a nearby estuary, or an economics text, illustrated with original woodcuts, or a children's astronomy book. They might produce original films, plays, and spoken word events on adolescent issues, Japanese internment, cross-border experiences, and a host of other topics. They might mount a crime scene exhibition linking art history and DNA analysis, or develop a museum exhibit of World War I as seen from various perspectives. They might celebrate returning warriors, emulating the Bard and Beowulf, by interviewing local veterans, writing poems honoring their experiences. The possibilities are endless. In executing such projects, students develop deep understandings by making something new of the subject matter. Of necessity, they learn how to collaborate, how to plan, how to give and accept critique, how to revise, how to self-assess. They read complex texts and write a wide range of pieces for a variety of purposes, from personal reflections to news articles, project proposals, memos, research reports, stories, and essays. They interview community members, learning to listen and appreciate diverse perspectives. As they present their work to important audiences, they come to understand what it means to be a member of the human community. And the irony is that as students pursue their passions and interests, the curriculum springs back to life. If we're to change the subject in this way, then we must change the trappings within which we educate our youth. It is a fool's errand to expect teachers to model 21st century skills in a 19th century work environment. Instead, situate them where they can collaborate with other teachers and with their students to pose problems, engage expert assistance, and design products and performances of lasting value. Embrace a cohort model where teams of teachers and students work together. Build professional collaboration and development time into the daily schedule so that teachers can meet variously in teaching teams, academic departments, and study groups to reflect on and refine their day-to-day practice. The aim is to unleash teachers and their students to design learning experiences that are applied, integrated, situated, expeditionary, and alternatively assessed. When we learn, really learn, we transform the content, the self, and the social relations of teaching and learning. This is what it means to change the subject. We can do this. If we value our future, we must.
Again, thank you so much for all that you do. I hope you don't look at this and just say, oh, here we go again. Because I truly believe that if you think about your own kids, maybe some of them are already out of college or whatever, but if our kids, the kids that you have every day in your classes, if we can give them these skills, and I'm going to tell you this, I don't know if any of you ever went to Capturing Kids' Hearts. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you have heard of it. That was probably one of the best times I've ever had as an educator, was going through a Capturing Kids' Heart. That's basically trust. The students are going to have to trust you. What you saw in these schools that we went to visit, they had a relationship with their students, the teachers, where there was an attitude of trust and communication. Somebody they could go to and talk to. They may not have that at home. And a lot of you guys are that anyway with your students, and I appreciate that, but we're talking about a completely different mindset, getting away from K-Prep, headed toward an attitude of trust, with teaching these survival skills. So again, I hope that as you go this summer, don't think that, man, next year when I start school, I've got to do something completely different. What I want you to start doing this summer is, if you have a chance, do a little research, do a little reading. If you haven't read the book, The Global Achievement Gap, get a chance to read it and see why we're looking at going in this direction. I appreciate all that you do. I hope you have a great summer. If you have questions throughout the summer about this, get with us. We want to try to get those answered. If there's something we can do to help you, if you need a resource, let us know. We want to get that to you. But I hope you finish out the next few days. I know we have a few more days. Somebody said we were hoping you would bring us here to tell us we didn't have to come next week. I wish I could do that, but we do appreciate you. We thank you. And you guys have been leaders for a long time, and I know you'll be leaders in this too. So as you go back to your schools for today, have a great day. Have a great few days next week, and I hope you have a wonderful, relaxing summer. And thank you again for all that you do for our students.